What do you mean you can hear it? You can't hear anything.
I can hear you clicking.
So, maybe I'm looking up stuff. You never know.
You're not. I saw you playing RuneScape when I was in there.
And?
You little RuneScape whore.
Yeah.
You are a whore for RuneScape. RuneScape slut. RuneScape. What's another word? What's an old timey word?
Harlot.
Yeah, I was about to say you RuneScape harlot. What else? RuneScape.
Jezebel.
Jesus. that's very oldie. Oldie.
Tramp. Woman
You
of the
RuneScape.
night.
You RuneScape night whore. You nightling.
Night wanderer.
You RuneScape night wanderer. Okay, are you ready?
Waiting on you to start.
And here's to the beginning.
I'll drink to that.
Why, Johnny Ringo.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
I know exactly what I'm doing, and I can change it at any time.
I'm your huckleberry.
An outlaw loose and running came the whisper from each lip, and he's here to do some business with the big iron on his hip.
Incoming the Ramblin podcast with your hosts, Conway Titty and Stoney Robbins.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ramblin podcast. I am your host, Stoney Robbins.
And I'm your host, Conway Titty. And we are back again for another Ramblin' earhole voice speaking box audio.
Back at it again with another vlog.
We are back for another episode for y'all. It is episode 12. Yeah, it's another week, another listening to's in your ear holes. I don't know why you guys.
Shitty accent? Were you trying to be from New York?
No. I was just, I don't know why you guys.
Welcome back to another new video.
I don't
I'm
know.
Vinny.
I don't know why you guys put up with us. Honestly, I don't know why you keep coming back. I don't know why you guys keep coming back. I don't know why you're here, but we appreciate it. And last week you listened to us talk about random hypothetical bullshit
What
and
if?
a bunch of poop at the end of the episode. That's for sure.
For some reason, Conway decided to be a fun little idea to go on a 20-minute rant about shit.
Hey, I was on a roll. Literally.
About shit.
Yeah, we were just in it, just talking about it. This week's gonna be a little different. I try to switch it up on every episode. Some episodes are about us. Some episodes are about random things in the universe, and some episodes are just literally just stupid shit. But I make sure that it's not just all about us all the time, even though it is our show. It's fun to talk about other things that doesn't include our personal lives or like shit that stories and things. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to make sure that we talk about ideas and opinions more than just, hey, this one time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so this episode is going to be all about us. It is a requested episode that we've kind of been avoiding for a while because we just wanted to kind of establish the podcast a little bit, get some episodes out before we talk about some of the more requested topics. That way, we have some listeners and we have people out there that are like, all right, I've been waiting for this one. Yeehaw. So we are finally going to talk about our camper story.
Yay!
Fucking yay. This is traumatic for both of us. It's very annoying and disappointing for how we wanted it to go versus how it did go.
Oh yeah, we had all these great plans and all this. We were supposed to be on the road for like a year and a half.
Yeah, hang on, Stoney. You're always get a little ahead of yourself there, sweetheart.
Yeah.
But this was it was a very highly requested episode to talk about. When we first announced that we were doing a podcast last year, everyone wanted to hear about this story, and they were wondering like what happened. Why aren't you guys doing it still? All of this other shit. And now's the time we're gonna talk about it. It's been a little over a year since we've been out, and I think it's the right time to kind of tell you guys, since it is the winter, maybe you guys will listen and think, I'm definitely not going to do this. Because there's a lot of things that we wish we would have known realistically that people would have actually told us instead of glorifying a bunch of it online all the time, and even just by talking to other people too. It We're gonna give you our honest, very, 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 very detailed opinions about this entire thing. So yes, this is gonna be our camper story. When Stoney and I got together in 2021 of last year, we got together at the beginning of 2021 in January. And before I met Stoney, I had when COVID was happening, I didn't want to be in the state or the place I was living at anymore. I wanted to like my goals was I was gonna get a truck and a camper, and I was gonna haul me and my dogs around to all of the national parks. That was my goal. I wanted to visit every single national park in the United States. Besides like Alaska and Hawaii, I was gonna do those like eventually. But all the ones that are kind of you can drive and travel to. I wanted to visit those and just really get to see a lot of the states in the world of the United States that I have never seen before. And that was kind of my goal. So when I met Stoney, he also was wanting to do something similar, and it was very uncanny how we both kind of had a similar goal and dream in mind of, hey, we want to go visit all the national parks. How crazy is it that we were together at that time? And sure enough, that the summer was, the summer was approaching, and I was like, oh my god, maybe we can do this together. This was like early in our relationship before we got married.
Yeah.
So yeah, as our relationship progressed, we decided we were going to get married. And then our goal after we got married was, okay, well, my lease is up on this house. Let's go ahead and just let's start. You already had a camper. We got a truck together. We traded in both of our vehicles and got a truck together. Um, and you had a camper, and we were like, okay, this is perfect. Like we can start our journey on it. So after we got married, we were like, okay, we'll start our national park trip. We'll go on the road for an entire year, and then we'll get a home base after we're done with that year. Just traveling on the road, uh, just being with nature and enjoying and having a good time, right? That was like our goal together.
Yeah, initially, because I went through this like kind of period where I would hyper obsess over YouTube videos of people like doing van conversions and people living, on the road as nomads, and I was like, that's what I want to do.
And this is
Whenever I
before he
have,
met me too.
yeah, this is like hell, probably about a year or so before I met Conway. I had the idea and I was like, you know what? I think this is what I want to do. I've got, money saved up. I can buy a van, I can convert it, and I can just go, kind of travel around and figure out what I want to do in life. And so it just so happened that she had the same idea. So we decided, let's do this.
Let's do it together. So, um, our I have it written down here, guys, so that way I don't kind of lose track of everything, because a lot did happen, and it was very, like I said, it was very traumatic, very disappointing, and very rough months of last summer. It is somewhat of a blur in a sense, but I wanted to make sure it was all in order. So I kind of wanted to talk about like our idea, like what we were telling you guys is like we both had the same goal, the same idea, and we both were like, all right, we can make this happen, no problem. So we had the camper, we had the truck, we had our two dogs, we had each other. Um, and we had the idea of a year on the road doing every park, and then once we get done, maybe we can fly to Alaska and do Alaska's parks, or fly to Hawaii and do Hawaii's parks. You know what I mean? Like, we wanted to mark them all off on our list and just live, at least try it for 1 year, and if, worst case scenario, we just go get a rental house somewhere, no big deal, you know what I mean? So, this is about the end of April. We get married and we're like, okay, now, I gotta move out of my house at the beginning of June. Like, let's go ahead and start packing everything up in May. Let's get everything organized. Let's prep the camper. Let's do all of this. So, as we're prepping the camper, which means like we put all new floors in our camper, we painted the walls, we kind of updated a little bit of the bathroom, kind of small area.
We removed fixtures that were unnecessary to us. We built like desk stations so that we could each have our stream setups.
We did
We
a
did
bunch
we
of
did a lot of
things
stuff.
we did a bunch of things to this camper to make it more livable, to make it to where we could still do the things that we wanted to do on the road and while we were at these places, and to make it as comfortable as possible for us and our
Yep.
2 dogs. We made sure things weren't leaking. We did double checks, triple checks. Like, we were making sure that this thing was going to be ready to go when we needed it. So on top of doing all the prep for the camper, we were also packing up the house, getting everything in storage units, like doing all of this in less than a month.
Yep.
And before Stoney and I got married, I also was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and start planning and doing my research on all the RV parks, all the places. Like, months before we got married, or the month before we got married, and then like all of May before we like headed out, like those months of research and planning, I spent basically deciding where we're going to be, what area, and then the entire year I did. And then once we got to May, I started kind of finalizing all the plans. I started being like, okay, from this date to this date, we're going to be here. From this date to this date, we're going to be here. Like, I knew exactly which RV park we were going to be. I had deposits down at certain RV parks. Like, you have to do a lot of that a months in advance because of people during the summer and just people traveling. And guys, reminder, this was the very first summer after quote unquote COVID. It was kind of like when everything was kind of lightening up on rules and restrictions. Like, granted, we weren't really going to be around too many people because our goal was like just out in nature in our own little bubble, not really like having to interact with too many people. We wanted to kind of just be by ourselves, right?
Yeah, we had the ideas that we were essentially going to be driving around, seeing a bunch of cool stuff, and experiencing the country together as a couple.
And that was our plans. So we had a 30, how long was the camper?
33-foot camper.
A 33-foot camper, which was plenty of room. We had to have water and electric hookups. Like, we didn't have one of those campers where you couldn't do that. You could do that for a certain amount of time, but we also had dogs and it was summer and the AC, like, we had to make sure that we had electricity. So we were having, like, when I was planning this and I was doing my research, I did everything. Months of research of looking up all different kinds of RV parks, checking the reviews, making sure the pictures look good, like doing everything I possibly can to make sure that this was going to be a smooth, fun journey and we were going to have no problems.
Yeah,
And
that was the main goal, was just to, well, not only like, because most people are like, oh, I want to go off grid, I want to do that. That wasn't necessarily our plan. We just wanted to be able to travel and not have to pay, a shit ton of money at Airbnbs, plane tickets, stuff like
or
that.
anything like that.
We
So,
wanted to just live where we were going.
but we also knew we weren't going to be able to do it dirt cheap like a van or a little bus or something because of how long the camper was. And we'll get into that more as we go along, and you guys will understand what I mean by like things are really fucked. And it's not, I'm gonna go ahead and say this now. If you are thinking about living in a camper and traveling and have that plans that we had, and all that shit, don't do it. And
Well,
I say don't do it. Don't do it all at once. Just take
yeah.
small trips here and there whenever you feel like it. Don't go on the road 100% 24/7, and I'll tell you why. One of the main reasons was everyone was glorifying it. Everywhere we looked, all the articles online, like everything and all the information we needed, everyone was like, "Oh my god, it's so much fun. You're going to have a blast. Everything's pretty cheap, blah blah blah." In reality, it is very 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 expensive no matter how much you cut back. It
Yep.
was unbelievably expensive, and it would have been easier for us to just get a hotel room each time we wanted to be somewhere.
Yep. Honestly, the easiest way to explain it is essentially just expensive homelessness.
Yes, and it was absolutely ridiculous. And a lot of these places and these RV parks and all these other places that you're going to stay, they do not tell you the prices of shit until you already get there, and then they tack on more money.
Yeah, then they just add all kinds of extra fees.
Also,
They
it being the summer after
yeah,
COVID
post-COVID.
shutdown, everything was basically double the price. And then say you wanted to get at a normal, like let's say a KOA, for example, which is a very common campground. They have tons all throughout the United States. 99% of those were already booked, even if you made sure to have a deposit months in
Yep.
advance.
They were
Um,
booked out for months.
they canceled our deposits many times at different places. We had places that were like, "Oh, we don't have a spot. Like, sorry." Um, and then your schedule starts getting torn down to you only know maybe a couple weeks in advance which RV park you're going to be at because of cancellations and moving around. And like, it was absolutely pure chaos no matter how far you plan or how much money you put down, all of that shit. Like, it was ridiculous. And like I said, because we had a 33-foot camper, most of the RV parks, they made it to where, oh, anything over 15 foot, oh, you got to pay the absolute most.
Yeah,
The
you have
absolute most.
they a lot of these places, like the way they have it, like the way I guess honestly the way it's portrayed online is you can just have whatever kind of camper you want. There's spots available, there's hookups available.
It's all the
Uh,
same relative
yeah,
price.
everything's, hey, it shouldn't be too expensive. I mean, you're already paying for that camper you have. You're paying fuel to go around the place. And then on top of that, you get there and you're paying over $100 a night for a
Which,
spot to accommodate your camper, which is so dumb because it would have been cheaper just to, pay $100 a night in a hotel and not
yeah,
have to pay for the gas, not have to pay for the water, not have to pay for any of the extra shit. And then you still have to only stay there for a little bit. And if you want to stay longer, sorry, better find somewhere else because they're already booked out for 4 months.
yes. So Stoney made a very good point there is most of these RV places we were staying at, even if we were looking for the cheap ones, but you also have to be very, very, very careful with the really cheap ones because then that's when it starts getting really scary and really sketchy and not good at all. Um, or they don't have what you need. Like we had to have we didn't even need a water hookup, but we had to have electric for our dogs and for ourselves because like I said, it's fucking middle of summer, it's 100 and something degrees. But Stoney made a good point of it would have been so much cheaper for us just to load up the dogs in the truck and just travel in the truck and just go stay in a hotel that was dog friendly throughout our
Yep.
stay. No big deal. It would have been 100 times more cheaper than
Yeah,
what
then pulling
we
the
what we
camper
did.
around, spending the extra money to pull the camper around because this was back in 2021.
This was right before
Whenever
all the gas
Yeah, right before
started getting.
everything went crazy because whenever we left, I want to say diesel was like 250 a gallon.
Yeah,
It was
at
around
the
250
beginning
a
of our
gallon.
trip. And when
And
we
yes,
ended
I
our
know.
trip, it was like $4 and something. If
Oh
that
yeah,
just
that
tells
was
you anything. And
well.
you're gonna see what we're talking about when we get into it. You're gonna see not only how short the trip was, but how in the amount of things changed just in our short amount of time of doing it. Um, but yeah, Stoney made that good point of like it would have been easier to just truck, hotel stay, hang out, do certain things, and that's about it. But we wanted to make sure the dogs were also comfortable. We wanted them, to kind of get out and do things with them and not just keep them, um, hooked up in a, just a room, right? Um, but so we spent, let's go back. We spent months planning. I had us, our goal basically, I was like, okay, we will start June. We'll be in like Tennessee. Kind of, we're going to make like a big loop around. We're going to start in Texas. We're going to head to Texas to Tennessee. We're going to make a loop, go all the way up into North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and then we're going to head down, and then like end of the summer we'll be in Florida. We'll be hitting up the beaches, doing all of that stuff, and then we'll head back up the East Coast. So like basically my goal was to be in October was to be in Massachusetts to enjoy like Salem area and the fall and be up in Maine and kind of in Vermont. I wanted to like do October, uh November, all into the fall area, right? That was our kind of our goal. And then we were kind of gonna head back down and kind of skip through Ohio and everywhere else on the map, and then go down. And then we wanted to kind of make a little home base in Colorado for kind of the winter. I think our plan was to maybe rent an Airbnb for like the month, because you can do that. And we were just gonna, sit in an Airbnb for a month and just hang out and spend a nice, beautiful Christmas in Colorado. And then we were gonna go to January. We were gonna start hitting the West Coast. We were gonna head through Las Vegas, or not Las Vegas, but Nevada and Arizona, New Mexico, like kind of those um beautiful places. When it started hitting like late January, early February, to where we weren't absolutely miserably hot in the summer, being in like New Mexico. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then after that, I think we were like, okay, then once it hits like March or early April, we'll be up in Montana. Like we kind of wanted to wait for a lot of the snow to melt. And, we were kind of just like, all right, we're going to go from Texas all the way up to Maine for the fall, loop back down to Colorado for the winter ish. And then once everything started, kind of not being as fucking cold, then heading up to, Montana and stuff for the spring, and Wyoming for the, late spring. And then we were going to be hitting California at the beginning of that summer, and then making our way back. And that was going to be a full year. We kind of like, we were going to make sure we were going to hit all of the national parks along the way in that little loop. Fairly simple, nothing crazy. I planned out the entire year. We had the RV parks that we wanted. We were doing more research, and then it was just kind of like, if it needed to change along the way as the month got closer, then you can start narrowing it down of like what we wanted to do. You know what I mean? Like we really were trying to make sure that if things changed or anything, it was also very flexible, right?
Yes. Originally that was the goal.
Was to stay flexible.
But
So
whenever we tried to do the whole flexible thing, we quickly realized that being flexible is not always the easiest to be, because of how many limitations and requirements we actually did have to have.
and I want to also think I blame that it being the first summer that everyone got out of the house, air quotes. I want to blame it on the most of the RV places knowing and taking advantage of that.
Yes, 100%. Because like, we were, I mean, not necessarily we were told, but like people that had done this before us were like, oh yeah, camping and like living in a camper is not too bad. You might pay like 20-30 bucks a night, because you're basically just paying for that spot for that night. Everything's factored in, blah, blah, blah. But in a post-COVID world where everybody couldn't do anything for 2 years, everyone realized very quickly that hey, we can double, triple, and quadruple our prices, and people are still going to pay them.
And the other problem, like I said, we mostly ran into was everything selling out.
Yeah, and one thing that a lot of places don't tell you is they say, yeah, all RVs are welcome, this, that, and the other, but not all RV parks are accommodating to your style of RV.
Very
Like,
much
I think
so.
one of the biggest ones we ran across was the fact that, like, our RV had to have a 50 amp plug-in, and most pull-through spots have 30 or 50 for the plug-ins, and they usually have water and a septic. But the way that some of them get you is they'll tell you there's spots available, but they're back-in only. They're only 30 amp plug-ins with no septic.
But they will not tell you that until you get there.
Yeah, they don't show you what their availability is online because
They mark your spot when you call because most of the time it's not online. Most of the time you do have to call and then they pick your spot for you and then you get what you get basically, right?
yep, that's exactly what we ran across.
And then I think one of the other things that, people were saying, "Oh my god, it's cheap, it's nice." And it's like, yeah, that probably was the case, but it wasn't the case anymore.
Yeah.
And not that we learned the hard way, but it really popped our balloon of just even fun because of us spending X amount of money on things that we are like, "Oh, well, that money was supposed to be for us going out and about and exploring. Now we can't do that because we have to save some money for the next spot." Like, or we just
Yep.
spent the money we wanted because you still wanted to make sure you had a budget on what you were doing, and it would be like, oh, the money we wanted to spend to go out and about, that had to be put to the fucking camper spot because they decided to throw in extra fees or extra charges. And then the other thing a lot of people will not tell you, like I said, we're gonna be fucking brutally honest with you guys about this whole thing because it was a very, very, it was a lot. Last summer was, I would say, one of the top really bad summers. Not
Yeah.
because I was with Stony and we together had a good time, but it was one of the worst summers monetarily wise of spending so much money for what
Oh
we
my God.
got.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Like
But I think, yeah, go
to
for
give
it.
everyone like a little bit of an idea what we're specifically talking about, like the way we had it kind of like in our heads was we were gonna probably be paying roughly around, I don't know, anywhere from two to like $500 at spots. And the only reason we gave it even that much is because some of the places were considered luxury RV parks. Like that's the thing is not all RV parks are the same. Some of them are, your budget RV parks. Some of them are just, general like a KOA. And then some of them are marketed as this is a higher end luxury area for, more extended stays, this, that, and the other. There's amenities, stuff like that. That's the way it's sold online. But then whenever you get there, you realize like all you're gonna have to pay, and you're sitting there like, oh, okay, cool. We're here for 2 weeks and we paid $2,000. And it really fucked us in the long run because like the way we kind of had thought about it is we were going to get to these spots, we were going to pay, our couple $100 to stay there for a week, 2 weeks, whatever. And then we were going to basically have like $1,000 at each place we went to kind of just do whatever we wanted with, whether that be, restock the camper with food, or go on a little adventures, go buy some stuff, experience the local stuff. Because one of the things we tried to do was at every place we tried to eat at like a local place, not like a chain restaurant or anything like that, because we wanted to see like different parts of the country, what they had as their quote unquote specialties in a sense.
Mhm.
Um, but what we realized is 90% of the money we spent was purely on just RV parks and gas.
Yes.
Like that's
Which is
most of the money we spent was just on that.
Which the gas part was like fine because we knew we were going to be traveling. That didn't bother me. It mainly was how fucked up these goddamn RV spots were. So also
Oh,
what Stoney was saying was the extended stays or just staying in our reservations in general. We're not going to dive into that. You would book your stay, and a lot of these RV parks would either have a minimum and a maximum stay.
yep.
So if you wanted to extend it by 1 day, you were shit out of luck. And then all of the surrounding RV parks that are even within 2 hours are completely sold out.
Yep.
Completely sold out. So that means, all right, well, I guess we're just going to mark that off. Let's just head to the next place we were going to go and kind of skip this and do that, right? Okay.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I refer to it as expensive homelessness, because if you don't have a spot, you're shit out of luck. Like you can't. It's not like that's the thing that I think people don't understand because it's different if you're like in a van. Because if you're in a van, if you have a parking spot, you're in somewhere you can sleep for the night.
And you can turn the van on, and it is the entire thing
Yeah,
turns on.
but whenever
Whereas
you
the
have
camper, you have to plug it in. You know.
yeah, whenever you've got a 33-foot camper and a truck that's 15-foot long, also, you can't really do anything when you're driving around something the equivalent of like a semi trailer. Like you have to have certain accommodations because like it would be a lot easier if I could just like say go park in a Walmart parking lot, turn on a generator and be like, boom, I got power at least. But you can't even do that anymore.
Yeah.
Like a lot of places they have it, like even Walmarts and stuff like that. Because we, worst case scenario, we were looking like, okay, well maybe we'll just have to overnight it like at a Walmart parking lot or at like a or like at a truck stop, just back into one of those spots or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
you can't because most of those places like there's no ability for campers because like even at truck stops where you have all those pull-in spots for overnighting, those fill up at around 5 o'clock in the 5 o'clock or 5 p.m. God, I'm sorry, I really
Yeah.
stuttered on
And
that
then
one.
then those truckers are ready to go to sleep for their next
Yep.
shifts and stuff.
And
Yeah.
everything there, even if you do manage to get in one, it's loud as hell because nobody turns their truck off because that's how they have power also.
Mm-hmm.
So where you've got a camper that you can hear everything from the outside trying to be in between truckers, which anyone who knows anything about truck stops knows that like that's kind of not necessarily the greatest place to be.
Yeah, it's very
Um,
it gets very sketchy for sure.
Yeah.
So I think definitely we're gonna make this a 2-part episode. Just go ahead and
Oh
say
yeah, we're
that.
gonna we're
So
gonna have to because there's so much shit to talk
we're
about.
kind of gonna break down the first half. Like, so we kind of gave a little brief explanation of like
Gave y'all a
if
little
you guys
prequel.
if y'all decide to do it, don't.
Well,
Um,
I'm gonna reiterate one point on that. I think there's kind of an asterisk that goes with that because I say don't because if you have big dogs, don't do it because your big dogs are gonna suffer. They're not gonna have room. They're not gonna have space. They're not gonna be able to just run
ex-
around.
yes, yes,
Because
yes.
a lot of these
Especially if it's
places,
parks.
say, "Oh yeah, we've
Why?
got a dog park," and it's like uh, like a 200 square foot little like caged in area that's
They
completely devoided of grass and just there's shit everywhere. So
it's
it's not going
yeah.
to be fun for anyone. You don't really get to play with them unless you go to a actual like dog park in that area, which is fine for some people. I know some people are used to that, but for our dogs, we have two German shepherds. Not the ideal situation to have inside of a camper, which we found out, and ultimately we changed
I wouldn't
that.
even say necessarily that because it's like we planned on taking them with us at the national parks and like on walks. Like we planned on getting them out with us as much as possible. The problem we really ran into was at these parks. It was quite strict on dogs in general.
Oh
Like
yeah.
you weren't really allowed to walk your dog around in this area. They always had to be on a leash, obviously. Like people that didn't have their dogs on a leash, I was so fucking annoyed. Like, oh my
Oh yeah,
fucking
there
god.
were so many people that would just walk around, and for whatever reason with these places, it seems that one, we were considered like the youngest people there, which was kind of weird.
Yes, everywhere
Um,
we went, we were the youngest people, and we were in our 20s.
yeah, like I mean, we're not that young, we're not that old, but like it seemed that everywhere we went, the people next to us or around us, the average age was 50 plus, which
Easily.
we kind of knew because like a lot of older people decide to sell their houses, buy drivable RVs and do that whole
And
thing.
boy, were a lot of them fucking
Oh
dickheads.
my god.
We'll definitely get
Entitled
into that.
dickheads at that.
Oh my god. So yeah, not only was it like I'm sure doing it with smaller dogs or no dogs at all is probably great because it is mainly meant for like small dogs. Like the parks and everything we went to were very much accommodating small dogs. But if
Yeah.
you had any big dogs, and there we saw quite a few of like we saw huskies and labs and even a Great Dane. Like we saw plenty of other big dogs, but they had the same problem as us of like big dogs were not allowed to go in this way or dogs are not allowed on this area. Every dog had to be on a leash. Oh, you want your dog to play? Nope, sorry, has to stay on the leash and it can only be in this very tiny thing, Or they
Yeah.
were out and about with us. And then even then sometimes they weren't even allowed to be out and about with us, which was also fucking stupid.
Yeah, and the one thing that kind of annoyed me the most is there would be all these rules and then people just I know it sounds stupid, but they just wouldn't follow them. Like I think the one that was the most annoying to me particularly is the fact that every single park we went or not even park, but just every RV park and facility we were at, there was a thing posted saying like you're not allowed to like chain your dog up outside.
Yes, that was a very big rule.
And if
There was
anyone knows anything, that's a smart thing to do because people walk around these parks, kids run around, whatever. Not all dogs are the same. So grabbing one of those little screw it in the ground things and just leaving your dog on a chain while you go out,
very
terrible
dangerous.
thing to do. Also because some of those dogs don't shut up ever.
Yeah,
We run across so many times where it'd be, 12 o'clock at night, there would be a dog tied up to a tree just screaming.
that, or it'd be super hot outside. Like, we just saw a lot of shit that was like, this is so stupid. So not only were people very ignorant and not following the rules of, like, one, the dog rules, whether it was picking up your shit. I know that has happens in general, but the dog poop rules, the dogs on the leashes, leaving your dog outside. There was a lot of the parks that also had rules of, like, you couldn't have certain things out on the ground. Like, say, for us, for most RV people, you would have like a rug or a carpet or something that would go outside your RV to, like, before you walk in. There was rules on not doing that. There was rules on, like, where you could and could not park. It was just like, and then people would become so obnoxiously annoying when it came to you being in their little space. Like,
Oh yeah, like
heaven
that
forbid
dickhead.
you walked across the side grass that's in between your camper and their camper, they would lose their ever loving fucking minds.
Yeah,
Like,
that
it
guy was
was
a dickhead.
it was multiple times. Like, it was not it became not a fun time for how everyone glamorized it. And I'm sure if you have a van and no dogs and you had all the money in the world and you could go do those overnight off-grid camping for like a day or two, you could do that because you have the ability to. You
Yeah,
can't do that with
boondocking you can do with just about any kind of camper as long as you have a water tank.
yeah.
But when you've got two dogs, two people who, shower, use the bathroom, whatever, conserving water, yes, is something you have to do, but it's not something you should have to do whenever you have animals
But
because that's just really limiting your ability.
But what I was also saying was it was mainly, like I said, if you're boondocking and you're doing all that, that's fabulous in a van. I'm sure that we could have easily done that. People do it all the time. That's where it's cheap. But when you're a normal thing, and this is why, you kind of see that a lot of the people that were there were retired and had endless money to be able to spend to do this.
Yeah, because I can't imagine, like, there were some people that were driving, $250,000 RVs, the drivable ones, pulling a toy hauler behind them with like
Everything
a small
matching.
car. They have
Yeah.
like a side by side. They
All
got all
color
kinds of
matching and
shit.
shit.
And
And
it's
then
like
what we came
understandable, but obnoxious.
Yeah, but what we came to know was like, oh my god, if we just had a drivable RV, it probably would have been
A million times easier.
a million times easier, but also way more expensive too. Like, that's how you could kind of differentiate of, like, holy shit, like, those people have a lot of money to be able to do that. We were kind of like right in the middle, but one thing I will say is it's not a regret of mine because I don't regret shit in my life. But looking back, like I said, we should have just done hotel to hotel or Airbnb, because at the end of each month, we were basically paying more than 3 mortgages just to stay at these fucking parks.
Oh yeah, whenever you
3
look at it,
mortgages, guys. That's
yeah.
3
Hell,
rents.
more than
I could have
honestly, more than that.
3 rental homes I could have just paid
Yeah, yeah,
for
that's
what
on
we
it.
did
Yeah,
just based on gas and campers staying. And here's the
yeah.
thing is, like, you don't really know that until you're done with that month, and then you're like, "Holy fuck. That was so stupid." And then you get what you're getting and you go, "That was fucking not worth it at all." But you don't know that until you get there. So we're going to go ahead and dive on in to basically to give you some examples and to really kind of talk about exactly what we've been bitching about for the past like 30 fucking minutes.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start out with end of May. So end of May, my house is packed up. Stoney and I have put stuff in storage units. We're renovating the camper. It gets into June. We've moved out of the house. We're in the camper. We're doing the last minute renovations at my family's. They're helping us get like a couple things done. And then we were off headed. It's the end of June. Our road trip was finally started. We are in the camper full time. We are ready to go. We got stuff. We're getting stuff even more comfortable, more situated. We have the rest of basically the summer planned out. I have things booked. We're about to have fun. It's summer, like woo. I'm considering it to our like extended honeymoon, our honeymoon of traveling for a year. We're gonna see so many cool things. It's gonna be so much fun. Stoney and I at this point are excited. We're ready to get going, right?
Yep, that's exactly what the plan started out.
So we're in Arkansas at this time. We just finished everything and we're like, all right, it's time to get going. So at the end of June, we're like, all right, I think, what would be fun, babe? Let's go spend like 4th of July in Nashville. 4th of July in Nashville will be so much fun. I think it'd be great. We can do a couple little things. We can see some stuff you'd never seen before. We can do all this. It'll be so much fun. So we're leaving end of June. We are like, okay, let's go stop in Memphis for a little bit. I love Memphis. Memphis is awesome. We can stop us in Memphis. We can eat some good food. We can stop at some RV places, but we're not going to be there too long, maybe like a day or two and then get on, keep driving, because that's kind of how the schedule is. You want to keep on moving. You only want to stay at places for a long term when it's things that you're going to have a lot to do, right?
Yep.
Or that we're like near bigger things we wanted to do, or that we're near a national park. That was kind of our thing. So we're in Memphis. It was nice. The KOA or whatever the RV park we stayed there, that was nice. We only stayed there for like 2 days. Nothing crazy. We were still just kind of like getting our stuff together. That's basically it. And then it was like, okay, like we're gonna spend. I think we got there like June 30th. I think was there and we were in Nashville, right? We're like, all right, we're gonna spend like a week and a half in Nashville. We can kind of go see some concerts if we want. We can go do this. We can go do that. No big deal. So we head from Memphis to Nashville, which is only like a 3-hour drive. And on the way, guys, also too, we were trying to break it up to where Stoney didn't have to drive any more than 5 hours, 3 to 5 hours at a time, because one, that's rough on our dogs having to stop all of the time, especially when there's not a lot of truck stop bathrooms to use, or not bathrooms, but like the rest areas and everything. Like we were trying to just kind of limiting, all right, this is as far as we're going to drive with the camper. We'll stop at these different spots. So we're in Nashville and we're in this RV park that is so fucking overcrowded. The spots are so close together.
Wait. If we're talking about Nashville, I want to talk about something specifically. So when we got to Nashville, we had already paid for our stuff. We had already confirmed our spot. We had already been told, like, yeah, you've got a spot.
You pay in advance, too. You pay in advance. So you have to pay for your entire time you're staying there before you even get there.
Yes. So, we shelled out like almost $2,000 for this spot, and we were like, holy fuck, this is expensive. What that should have told us is that was foreshadowing to how the rest of everything was going to go. Because the second we got there, I pull into the RV park, I park in the little designated like loading and unloading area
where you like go get your information.
You park your stuff so that way you can go get your spot, then you move to your spot, and then you set up camp, right? I go in there to like get the spot, and we have reservations and everything, and I've got the receipts and all the email stuff that they send
months in advance. Remind you, I booked this in May. It is now July.
So tell me why when I go inside, we don't have a reservation for you. I was like, you guys took my money, you should have a reservation. Tell me why after they accepted our money and everything, they sold our spot. Because whenever I got there, I had no spot. So I had to almost act like a fucking Karen just to get my damn spot. I was like, no, we've already paid for everything. We're here for a week and a half. There's 0 other RV parks. Because mind you, this is the very end of June. 4th of July is a couple days away at this point.
And I knew
there is absolutely nothing within a like 200-mile radius of Nashville that has a spot. And I looked at them and said, what do you want us to do? We just drove from Texas to be here at our confirmation time to make sure that we would have our spot. We are here. Everything is supposed to be in order, and you guys sold our spot out from under us. So I kind of raised a little bit of hell, and I don't know if it was the fact that I could pull the veteran card or what, but
yeah, right.
I got a fucking spot and I got a massive discount for it because of their fuck up. But that should just go to show you exactly how I don't know,
Snaky.
not necessarily cutthroat, but snaky is probably the
Yeah.
easiest way to put it because
How shady
at
and
the end of the
snaky a
day,
lot of the places were.
the operation costs are probably nowhere near as much as they sell them out to be
Oh
because, like,
my
I get
god.
it, you're using a lot of power and you have to use a lot of water and you have septic, and I understand all of that. The issue is you're making hand over fist money at these places, but then your facilities are broken. Your laundry machines don't work. Your showers are absolute shit, which luckily for us, we had the ability to where we could shower and, shit in our own thing because, well, I made sure we had a full bathroom in our camper. And you would go to these places and just like look around and be like, wow,
I
we
paid
really
for.
paid this much for what, a little bit of asphalt?
And here's the thing is like this is where I tell you what I was talking about earlier of how they lie. Online, you will look on their pages, you will look at their photos, you will look at everything they include, their amenities, everything. You're like, okay, this is gonna be nice, and you get there and they have maybe 10 out of 100 things that they offer.
Yeah, the
And
worst thing is 100%
oh,
the laundry services, in my opinion, because
well,
like
to me,
the
that
one
didn't matter too much
well,
because we
hold
could
on,
have gone
hold on,
to a
hold on.
laundromat,
We
right?
could have gone to a laundromat, yes, but that is not the point in my mind. Because if we're paying close to 2 grand to stay somewhere for 2 fucking weeks,
Not even 2 weeks,
yeah, not even 2 weeks. We were there for what, 13, 12 days, something like that.
12 days, I think.
And with that cost, you think, you wouldn't have to pay $5 for a load of laundry. And then on top of that, half of your laundry machines don't work. You're in an RV park and there was probably, easily what, 300 RVs there
Easily.
because it was completely full. There was like
Oh,
maybe 10, 15 washers and dryers on the entire campus.
yeah, but to me, that's not entirely important. What I was mainly saying was like the things that you would be they would show and protrude and like lie about would be like, oh yeah, we have
Portray. She meant
portray,
portray, by
yeah,
the way, guys.
portray. Sorry, when we were, you would get there and you're like, oh wow, our spot is dog shit,
Yep.
absolute fucking dog shit. Everything was so close together. The fucking spots were so close together,
Oh
which
yeah,
made
that
it
also
so.
that just a little bit of follow up. Sorry to interrupt you, but with that, what she means specifically is our camper had 3 pop outs. So on your RVs and stuff like that, when you're driving them, they don't seem that big, but whenever you actually get set up in a campground, a lot of them have slides that pull out to actually, be able to
Most
walk inside of it because it's not
Most campers
compacted.
do. Most
Yeah.
most campers do, and everyone there had similar campers to us. So yeah, everyone had pop-ups, and it was just they made it. Most of these places are kind of monopoly in a sense because they're putting as many spots as they can at the very, very, very max limit that they can to make as much profit, even though they know that the person's not going to care because they're just going to be there for a little bit and then they're going to leave.
Yeah, exactly, and we ran across that so many times, like, I there was a couple spots throughout the journey and stuff, we'd get there and, like, the electric box didn't work, and so
And
we
then
had to
they're
get
like, and then they'd be like, "Oh, sorry."
yeah, the electric box wouldn't work, or whenever you'd get set up, like, so most of them, how the water works is usually it's kind of like a water well for every spot, essentially, where there's just, like, a pipe coming up out of the ground with a faucet on it, with, like, a water hose faucet, or some of them would have the old style where it's like, you lift a massive handle up and the water's on. But some of them, somebody had hit them or something like that, and it'd be fucking leaning over to the point where it's like if you pull your slide out, it's gonna damage your slide because the water thing is like halfway into your camper.
Mhm.
So there
And
was
then you
just
could
so many things with that and broken. I can't tell you the number of times we ran across where there was like the septic was busted, and so basically it was just an open hole in the ground.
Yeah. So you could tell like people hitting shit when they leave. Like you could tell the places were busted up. So we're in Nashville. Stony had to go through the ordeal of them not having our spot, and this was the very first thing on our
Yeah.
fucking journey. Like we just got on with Memphis, but Memphis we didn't really get to do a lot because we're like, okay, we got to get to Nashville.
Yeah,
It's
Memphis
on
we
the
just
schedule.
did an overnight. So we just went to a KOA, we're there for a night, set up, left, went to Nashville.
It was
So
nice. Like
pretty
okay,
easy.
cool. Um, And I was like, "Fuck, this sucks." So we finally get our spot. We finally get set up, and we're like, "Okay, let's get the dogs out. Let's like, they have the dog park." And they were saying that online, they were like, "The dog park's huge." The pictures looked, they
Yeah,
made
they
it
were
seem
saying
like
their
everything was
dog park
huge.
was like an acre big.
Um, this place was also somewhat. It did have woods in a sense. Um, but their little fence area to allow your dog to run off leash. Because remind you, the rules were pretty strict. Like they made sure that you did not have your dog off a leash, and also we didn't want our dogs off a leash because all the dogs that were off leash were fucking chaotic and would try to run up to our dogs, and that's a big no-no in the doggy world in general. It's like that's irresponsible for you to just let your dog run up to my dog, because both of my dogs are guard dogs, so they're gonna be like, what the fuck, get away. Like they're not gonna be like, hey, hello, small dog. um
Yeah, our dogs aren't necessarily the most friendliest to other dogs.
Not even that. I mean, yeah, but it's more of like they're guard dogs, so they're meant to just kind of be around us. They could be around people and be friendly, but if there's things off leashes that are running at them, they're like, "What the fuck?" Like, get away, get away, get away from my human. Um, so we're like, okay, let's go walk, and go do a little thing and just kind of look around the park and everything. And this is on a couple acres or whatever. And we get there, and it's this tiny, I would say,
It was
10 by 15 chain link square. And
yeah.
that was their dog park. And it was covered in dog shit. And then there was kind of a line. Like people,
Oh my god, that was the
what kind of
stupidest thing.
what kind of was the courtesy was like you would let each person have their own time in the dog park. You wouldn't kind of overload dogs in there. Like if you had a bunch of small dogs, all the small dogs would kind of, poop and then run around with each other for a little bit. And then like if you had, bigger dogs, you kind of just would just wait your turn, right? So we're just kind of standing there waiting for everyone to kind of get done with their dog usage, because like I said, everyone had to be on a leash. So that was kind of stupid, because it's like, oh, like you can't really leave your dog out too long because there's other people in line. Or you would try to like plan in time, like when you could go put your dog in there without anybody there so they could have, a good time to stretch their legs and whatever. So what Tony and I ended up doing by, I would say, day 4 into the stay, we just went back into the woods and unhooked our dogs and let them just fucking run around in the little woods.
Or
Um,
if we didn't feel like walking all the way over there, we would wait till like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and then
yes.
we would go to the dog park and let them run around for like
For
2 hours.
yeah, and when like no one would be around because everyone's asleep or everyone's out. Like we
Oh,
just
and the other thing about this place that annoyed the shit out of me, 0 lights at all.
Oh yeah, it had
If it
like
was nighttime, we had
no
to walk around
lights.
with flashlights because there was no lights anywhere. It was like pitch
Which
dark in
was
there.
fine, because it is like, you are trying to be immersive in near a city, right? So in Nashville, we're like, okay, we're kind of done with the RV shit, kind of over that bull stuff. Like let's go figure out the things to do and everything. So we went and we saw our friend Katie Butts one time play like an acoustic show. We got to do that. We did some like Funko Pop shopping at some like comic stores, and we were just kind of enjoying being like, okay, let's just kind of start slow in our journey of fun, right?
Yeah.
And then 4th of July passes. We stayed home because both of our dogs, I mean, I'm sure your guys' dogs are like this too, really do not like 4th of July. It's very scary for them. And especially when you're in a camper, that noise is kind of amplified from the outside because of the material. So we kind of stayed with our dogs on 4th of July, and everything was basically pretty much booked or super busy. And I don't like being around bunches of crowds too much. So kind of just avoided it. And we had a nice little night to ourselves, just kind of watching nearby fireworks or whatever. Um, and then that's kind of when everyone started to leave. Was like after 4th of July left, people started to leave, and those RV spots started to open up. And then it kind of became like, oh, this is nice. Like,
Yeah,
it was
once
like
the summer surge kind of died down a little bit because it wasn't, right around 4th of July. It wasn't right after school let out. And it was
our
just like, these
last
are
week
just
there.
people who are like, kind of living on the road. These are people just passing through,
Or they're
whatever.
people who are, like I said, are blue collar workers that are just staying there for a couple nights and then they're on to the next job. Like it became to where it's like, okay, taking the dogs out wasn't so difficult. But then again, like we were still trying to save some money, so we didn't feel like going out and doing a bunch of things because we just spent so much money on the goddamn RV place that we didn't expect to spend at. Um,
Yeah.
so that's about like July, the beginning of July, middle of July. That's kind of where we were at, just in Nashville, hanging around, doing some things. There's a lot of things we wanted to do and a lot of concerts we wanted to go to that we didn't because we were just like, oh, we'll hit it next time. Like, let's just save some money and just stay at the camper tonight and have a little fire pit. Like we were trying to make it cheap because we knew we were going to be spending a lot more money throughout the time, right?
Yeah,
So
that was initially what I don't know. I wouldn't say necessarily turned us off, but it kind of like it irked us a bit.
yes, very much so. There's a lot of things we couldn't do because, like I said, you want to stay within the budget. Um, so we're heading to middle July now, and it's like, okay, our very first national park I've never been to. Um, we're gonna go to the Smoky Mountains. And the way I mapped it back in May, obviously, when I was planning it, we got our Nashville spot, but we couldn't get Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge or anywhere on the upper side of the Smoky Mountains. Everything was booked out, even like hundreds of miles away.
Yeah, it was pretty
And we
annoying.
didn't feel like driving 2 hours to from our RV spot just to go to the Smoky Mountains. We wanted to be somewhere close enough to go. So I was like, okay, back when I was planning, I was like, we'll just go south of the Smoky Mountains and go into North Carolina and stay in Cherokee, North Carolina. And I
Yeah,
was
we'll
like,
go the
that's gonna
back
be
way.
awesome. It's at the end of the Smoky Mountains. I was like, that'll be great. Like it's where the indigenous community's at. There'll be some nice little sites and museums and stuff that I want to go to. It'll be really lovely. Home of the Cherokee people. And we get there and once again, all of the RV parks are completely sold out. So we're having to
Oh, we went to this
pay.
one, that one, the one that we had to drive up into the mountains on mountain roads to get to.
Oh my God, guys. The worst thing probably possible. We had to do the Blue Ridge Parkway with the camper.
Oh God, it was
And if you
rough.
guys don't know the Blue Ridge Parkway,
It's what a lot
um,
of people on motorcycles go do for fun because
and
it's got a bunch of
and
turns.
convertibles and it was not fun. It was very butthole
Yeah,
tightening.
tight butthole the whole time.
And some of these, the way the maps would take us wouldn't be the way that the semis go, and that fucked us because it wasn't that we didn't know that, it just routed us the wrong way, and then we would be stuck on these places having to like be in sketchy little situations. But we also had to get to this RV park, which was in near Cherokee, North Carolina. It was near the Smoky Mountains. We were, near enough to where we could go in and enjoy some time, right? I
Yeah.
think we were only there for less than a week. I think we were only there for like 4 or 5 days. So we just drove from Nashville into North Carolina. Um, we go to this RV park that is rough.
Yeah, that one was
Most
kind of shitty because it
most of
was
these RV
not what
parks
it was supposed
were
to be.
permanent resident RV parks. It
Yeah,
was where
this
people
one
had
definitely was
built-in
permanent.
it was where people had
People had built
built-in
decks and
decks
stuff.
into this was where they lived. And it was kind of in the backwoods of North Carolina, which, I grew up in the middle of nowhere. Stoney also grew up in the middle of nowhere. Like, we're used to small communities and rural communities. Like, that shit doesn't bother us. It was more of the people that were around us that was making it uneasy. Um, First of all, it was full of extremely racist people. There was so many Confederate flags absolutely everywhere.
Very prominent. Very
Um,
prominently displayed.
there was every night there was bloodhounds barking. Um, because I'm sure whoever was like a breeder there or whatever, so like that was really loud.
Oh yeah, the people who own the damn place.
Yeah,
They
they had
had
like
their
a
actual like property right next to it, so I'm assuming they owned all of it and then converted part of it to an RV
yeah.
park.
And then if you guys know anything about hound dogs, they're loud. They're so loud, especially when you get like one going, the whole, group goes. And that would freak our dogs out and they would start barking and they'd start howling. Like sometimes it was funny, but other times you're just like, damn, shut the fuck up. Um, But the area we were at, like I said, we had to go kind of through the mountains, which was no big deal. The scenery was beautiful. And then we had to get into this spot. Their dog park was really nice. It was like in the corner of the spot.
Yeah, it was like a
Um,
long straight, like it was like a long park, if that makes sense. Like it was like probably like the length of a football field. Like it
no, it
was.
wasn't. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. You're getting confused. The one in Cherokee, North Carolina was, or near, or whatever place you were at in North Carolina, it was a nice sized big square and it had immediate greenery right behind it.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
was thinking
It
of
was,
the
yeah, I
the
know. Yes, I'm saying that wrong.
what
um,
that was.
but it was a big rectangle. It was very nice. They had like some dog things, like things on sticks or poles and stuff that the dogs could pull on, and they had it to where they made
I
sure
was
the
thinking
dogs
of
had enough space
Virginia
to run
Beach.
around.
That's what it was.
Yes, yeah. They had a lot of spots to make sure that even big dogs had a place to run. And there wasn't a lot of people there. It was not busy or full whatsoever. Like I said, besides the like permanent residents that were just, oh my fucking god, just racist backwoods people in our vicinity. And like I said, we were like the only young people there. We were, like it felt like we were very much foreigners in a place that it felt homey and comfortable being in the woods. You know what I mean? Like it was very kind of fucked up. Um but their little area for the dogs was nice. Their setup was not.
Oh no, it was awful. Single
Um
lane roads that are supposed to be for pull throughs. Yeah,
Not
it was
even that,
bad.
but there was one way in and one way out. So you
Yeah,
kinda had to time it that I would have to walk up the road first to
to make
make sure
sure that no
no
one was
one else
coming up
was
the road.
coming or pulling in so we could get out and in.
Yeah, the worst part is the fact that even though it was a one way, most of the places that you went were blind. So
Yes.
like you'd be on a hill or whatever, or you'd be coming up a hill and you can't see what's in the distance. So I'd have to have her get out. And we had walkie talkies with us. So she would take the walkie talkie and like go down the road a little bit, make sure no one's coming, and I would like meet her at the end of the road. It was very
Which is
dumb.
like stuff you gotta do, which is fine. But the way this park was set up was the middle spots were crappy and it was almost all eroded very badly. So they put us up on a spot that was kind of at the back on a hill, but it didn't make any sense because by the time Stoney pulled the truck through this pull through, the truck was touching a
Oh yeah.
giant hill.
Yeah.
The
I
front
almost
of the
got
truck
stuck.
the front of the truck was touching a giant hill right in front of us. It was like a fucking like a wall just
Yep.
right there. And that was chaotic because not only when you get to places, you got to think about how am I going to get out of here in a sense of like how am I going to leave? Because most people just forget about that. Most people pull in, they set up, and then they're like they load up and they're like, oh fuck, I don't know how to get out. Um, so the way
Yeah,
they had this set
we
up
had
was
two
like
options to get out.
chaotic.
You could either attempt to back up and then bust like a 45-degree
But you
turn.
really couldn't too because there was RVs right behind you too, you know?
Yeah. So there was like it was bad. Like I had to basically do like off Austin Powers where you have to go forward, pull back, angle it a little bit and go back and forth just so I could pull out through the front way of the pull through. That was supposed to be like you just pull in, drop your trailer, leave the truck parked in front of it, and then when it's time to leave, hook your trailer up and pull out and go. But you can't do that because you have to make like a 45-degree turn just to even get onto the single lane road, which we found out they had that trying to be considered a road whenever it was not even wide enough for a
It
standard car to
was
be on.
it was chaotic. It was so fucking chaotic. It was really quiet there. I did enjoy that.
Yeah, it was pretty quiet.
The stars were pretty. Like there's moments where we had a decent time of like, okay, this is what it is. But like I said, the environment is what ruins it. Um, the area is what ruins it. The people next to you is what ruins it. So we only stayed there for like 3 days. We went out and about and tried to explore that. We never end up going to the national park
Well,
at all.
we went one time and it wasn't really even we got to go because there was nothing we could do because everything was shut down.
Everything was shut down, and or there was literally no place to park.
Yep.
No place to park. Or like I said, or things were shut down, which is what we expected. We expected every now and then things to not be open. So we never even got to the Smoky Mountains, or like never got to go into the national park. Still haven't done that. It's the middle of July. We're about to leave for our next travels. And as we're pulling out of the situation where there's a fucking wall of a hill in front of us, Stoney manages to run
Oh,
over.
I ate a fucking picnic table with my truck.
Yeah, he
I
ate.
didn't just tap it. I straight up ate it. I was trying to angle it through there and forgot that picnic table was there, and I basically just drove over the table with
With the truck.
with my front left tire.
But you
and
couldn't move the picnic table either.
yeah, they was chained to the ground, so I just it basically just like went up it and
It was
like
either
eighth of an inch.
it was either wreck the truck into the hill or run a fucking wooden picnic table over. And you said,
Oh wait,
"Fuck
and
it."
I also forgot whenever we first got there, because of how shitty the roads were, like in the spot we were in, so like you're coming off a road, we had to try to make a 45 and then almost a 90-degree turn
Mhm.
to get into the spot we were in. So like I got it in there and swung it as best as I could. I fucking ate a fire ring with the camper on the way
Yeah.
there. It got clipped under the back tire of the
And
camper because you got to realize
fuck you.
I'm like a 50-foot long rig as I'm going through there on a road designed for like cars.
Yeah, pretty
So
much.
I ate a fire ring, and just bent the shit out of it, and it was really funny. I started laughing about it. But the worst part about that whole spot was the fact that not only were we having to deal with couldn't go anywhere, we were on a fucking hill. We
Yeah.
were on a hill for that entire stay. Like the front half of our camper was, relatively level, I would say. But then the back half, I had to have the stabilizer jacks fully extended, and then our stabilizer blocks that you put underneath the jacks,
It
I
was
had to use like
interesting.
probably almost like a good foot worth of them in height just to make it to where we could stay on there without it, rocking. It was very, very sketchy.
So we pull out, Stoney eats the goddamn picnic table, and we're like, all right, adios. We are headed to our next spot to spend, I think, a couple more days there, and then we were off to the next thing. Like
Oh
some of
yeah,
these places
we
weren't.
went from there to that.
Yeah. Some of these places weren't like week-long stays. Some of them were just like 3 or 4 days in between, just so we could, one, there would be space at the RV reservations that we booked, and that was the only weeks we could get, right? The only days you could get.
Mhm.
And then the other one was just like in between certain things, you had to have places to stay, so you're not just driving 48 hours straight, basically. Like we made sure it was the way it was planned was very well done. The way I planned everything was very well planned, very well
Oh yeah, we had a
done.
full itinerary for like almost a year and a half
It
planned.
just didn't execute wise based on it being bullshit. Let's just put
Yeah.
it that way. So
That's the
we're
easiest way.
leaving Cherokee, North Carolina, and we're a little disappointed. We're like, all right, we didn't get to do what we wanted to do. It was nice in area. We didn't really go out very much because it also wasn't the greatest of areas. It was very, 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 very tourist trappy.
Yeah, we tried going out one day and realized like, oh, this is no different than everything we experienced in Oklahoma.
Yeah. It was also very much, there was a lot,
It was very disheveled, I think is the easiest way to put
which
it.
is very unfortunate. There is a huge,
Huge
huge
opioid pandemic.
opioid pandemic, that unfortunately plagues mountain areas and everything, and it is very sad to see. I
Yeah,
don't know how
like
many billboards we saw.
lock up your pills.
Every mile was lock your pills, was a lock your pills billboard. It was very sketchy in certain places.
No, like that gas station we went into.
Yeah. Oh my.
So
love
this
love
gas
seeing
station.
love seeing crackheads do crack
Oh yeah,
right
this gas
casually.
station we were at. there was a small little quote unquote casino inside it. It was like 3 slot machines. There was people that were just sitting there for like 30 minutes at a time at these slot machines, and then they would rotate by going outside to smoke, and they would literally just go to like the backside of this like gas station garage type thing and like smoke crack and then go back into the little casino area and keep going.
And
And
hey,
then there was
whatever.
also, can't be confirmed, but essentially we deduced a prostitute um who would talk to the people, and then they would go to the bathroom and then come back out later, and this was all happening in a gas station.
Which is, like I said, which is very normal to a lot of people. They see that all the time. It wasn't like shocking or anything like that. It was
Yeah,
just
not
more of
necessarily
like,
shocking. It was just like, oh wow, this is because this, mind you, this was 2 in the afternoon. This wasn't even nighttime.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with any of that. We're not shaming people on that sense. It's more of like it was just really sad to see that it was like this area that's extremely valuable and historical and very important to the indigenous community, just so fucking run down. It that part to me was very heartbreaking to watch. It was hard to feel like anywhere we were at wasn't just some cheesy place meant for white people.
Yeah.
It was very disappointing for me. Thinking of what I thought it would be. I kind of disappointed myself in a sense.
Yeah.
Um but that part didn't work out as well. So we're like, okay, let's just kind of keep going. We have some more, you know, Stoney and I are both history buffs, so we're like, okay, let's like make sure like on our way we visit some historical sites and we do a bunch of different things. And we were just like, all right. So it's middle of July at this point. We're done with Cherokee, North Carolina. Our next stop is we're headed to Virginia. Our main stop is Virginia Beach. So we stopped for a couple days near Roanoke, and we had plans to go visit different places near that and kind of hang out for a little bit. Um, and this is where it starts getting extremely, extremely racist and extremely not uncomfortable in a sense, but like we're not the type of people that fit in there. Um, in a sense of like we're not gonna play along to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're headed to Virginia. We're near Roanoke. We're staying at an RV park that was somewhat not cheap. It was still expensive, but it wasn't. Everything else was still booked out. So this was like the second best option that we could get. It had tons of reviews, it had tons of photos. Come to find out, we get there. None of the photos look like what they're supposed to. It was basically an old KOA, is what it used to be, and someone took it over and made it their own private thing. So
Yeah.
on the way to this RV park that is in the middle of nowhere, you start getting into, like I said, more of the backwoods area, which is, like I said, it's fine with us. That doesn't make us uncomfortable. Like we're used to being in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. It's more homey to me. I like being in the woods. I don't mind it. Um, you start seeing more Confederate flags everywhere. Everywhere. Oh my god, they were fucking everywhere.
Oh yeah, there was just a lot of the flags associated with racism, I think is the easiest way to put
Yeah,
it.
just
Because like
fucking
I think
everywhere.
ultimately the worst one was
Well,
we saw.
hang on, I'm about
I
to
want
get
to tell
there.
that one
I
because
know,
I'm the one who
hang on.
found it.
I'm about to get there. I gotta set the scene. So we're driving, we're going down these, little areas, and we're like, okay, there's this
Oh wait,
road.
you forgot the first one though.
No, that's not, that's after. This is
Okay.
after. Um, so we're driving and we're like, all right, there's some fucking racist people that are in this area. What the fuck? Obviously, we know that. We knew that. We were just like, Jesus Christ, fuck all this. And we're about to pull into our RV park. We are on the road, and there's something on the right of the road, and there's something on the left. And the something on the left was our RV park. But Stony, would you like to tell them what was right across the street in the
Well,
field.
I have to preface this because there is one that we did forget because when we were leaving, I want to say Tennessee, I think, and we were right before we got. I think it was right before we got
Hey,
into
I'm
Virginia.
telling you, no, I'm telling you, what you're thinking of is after.
No, it is not. And the reason I know it's not after is because that's why I was like, see, at least I know what those people stand for. That's the only reason I remember it was before. Because one weird kind of like big thing that goes on kind of like whenever you're in the South is people will put massive, and I mean absolutely massive Confederate flags in the middle of a field so they can
I was
see it
talking about.
from the interstate. No, I'm talking about the thing that happened after that. So you see this massive Confederate flag like right by the state line before you get into Virginia. Because I was like looking, I was like, oh wow, look at that. Cool. Giant Confederate flag. And
Racist
I was
piece
like
of shits.
and I was just like, I mean, it's one thing to have your beliefs and everything, but fucking just to put it up in the middle of the field, knowing that it's like kind of a plausible deniability. So it's like, oh, it's not on my land, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but you're still, a piece of shit. But as we're about to pull into our RV park,
Like I said, our RV park was on the left, and
yep,
this was on the right. Sony,
yep,
please tell them what
and
beautiful, crazy house was
oh
on
yeah,
the
I
right.
saw this farmhouse,
And it
and
was a very pretty farmhouse. I was
yeah,
like,
and
oh, that's so
essentially,
cute.
the easiest way to describe it was a plantation home, and right out in front of their fucking right outside of their door, they have a massive flagpole with a Knights of the White Brotherhood flag. So very, very, very descriptive flag. And I just remember, like, as fucked up as it sounds, I was like, well, see, at least we know what those people stand for. And it was like the weird little thing that every time we saw something like that, it just kind of became like an inside joke. And it was just like, holy shit, these people really are out here still and this prominent. And it's like, Jesus Christ, guys, get a fucking hold of yourselves.
Well, yeah, they're always very prominent. Most of them are hidden, but that. So I literally we're about to pull into literally about to pull into the road for our RV park, and across the street I was like, "Oh my god, that's a cute little house. Like I love the structure of old houses. It's so cool." And then Stoney was like, "Yeah, look at the flag. Look at that flag." And he knew it cuz I didn't see it, and I looked up and I said, "Never mind. I take it back. Fuck those people." So across the street from this RV park that we're staying was a bunch of KKK people. Since if you guys don't know
Knights of the White Brotherhood is. It's the quote
yeah.
unquote politically correct term for the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah, no, fuck them. Fuck them. So yeah, there was a big KKK house right across the street from our RV park. And then we're like, awesome. Fucking neato. So then we're pulling into our RV. It's fairly busy. Um it was like I said, it was an old KOA. Someone bought it and converted it into what it
But they
was
didn't
now.
convert shit.
They didn't do anything, and this place looked untouched
It was a
from the
fucking dirt pit.
1979. This place was not touched since then. So we're the way the bigger trailers are parked was, oh, you guys are at the back end. So we go and drive our truck to the back end where everybody else had their,
Down a gravel
campers
hill.
down a gravel hill where right in front of the gravel hill is a massive lake.
Yeah,
I
it's
would
like
say more of a
this mat.
pond.
No,
Uh,
it was yeah,
it was
okay,
a lake.
technically a pond, but it was like it was a very large pond.
Yes, a very large pond. So not only are you driving this camper straight down on a gravel hill and hoping that you have grip. Good thing we had
Yeah,
a
because
truck that we
that's one
did.
thing. That's one thing that people don't understand about gravel is like gravel's completely fine if it's compacted. This was loose
Loose
gravel.
gravel.
Like this was like they
So
had just recently laid down more gravel because it eroded off because it was on a fucking hill.
so we're just hoping, we're like, holy fuck, I really, really hope, like, we're being very careful trying to get this camper through. We're like, okay, sweet, we made it down the park. So then there's a big, basically very large pond in the middle, and you're driving on this one-way road
Yeah,
back
because like they
to
had a
our
road like
spots.
around the pond because there was like a couple spots off back in the area where it was like wooded,
It was
but I'm guessing
private. It was
those were
homes and
private slash extended stay people that lived on the property,
yeah,
whatever.
right. So
We had to go over to this one area that was like
it was a
down past the
straightaway,
pond.
one little gravel road straightaway, and
Can I
then
can I
hang
explain
on,
this,
yes,
please?
hang on. Then it's like, oh, hey, our spot's right there by these other things. And we go like this. We're looking straight, being like, oh, pretty little pond. Oh, this isn't too bad. And then our heads both go right and they go up. And we go, oh, our place is on top of this hill. How in the fuck are we going to get up there?
Well, so it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't terrible. It just was kind of more tedious than anything.
More
Because
looking over to
it-
our left, that is a giant pond. In front of us is a giant pond, and there's one little road that
Yeah,
is
it's like
curved
this little hill that kind of goes up, and it's basically like a circle drive in a sense.
on
But
top of the hill.
there's like 30 fucking RVs crammed in an area that's like made for like 15. And so like
Yes.
you can see that the people who took over the place just did the same thing that everywhere else does to try to maximize the amount of real estate they can sell. Which whatever, that's fine, that's your prerogative, that's cool and all, but maybe make sure your shit's actually nice. And actually accommodates the size campers you're saying it accommodates,
Mhm.
because
Back to the
like
problem again.
normally most of the places we would go to were pull-ins purely for the sake of ease, because I'm lazy and backing a trailer sucks, and I can do it, it's just not necessarily my strong suit. So we're pulling into this area, and then we find out you have to pull around this circle drive to pull forward to then make another 90-degree fucking turn into the spot, which in all actuality, if I had had a fifth wheel camper instead of a bumper
Easy
pull,
peasy. Easy peasy.
not even a fucking,
A
not
lot
even
of these issues would have been solved also with a fifth
yeah,
wheel.
if I didn't have a fucking bumper pull with stabilizer arms. But I didn't, and made do with what I had. So basically what you had to do was like pull past it, unhook your stabilizer arms, and then creep it like at a 90 around the corner. But to make everything just even more stupid that didn't
Hang on, hang
fucking
on.
need to be
Hang
stupid.
on,
No,
hang
no,
on.
no. I'm telling this story.
No, I know, hang on. So it's a circle, right? And you think, oh, there's plenty of space to kind of move your shit back
Fuck
and forth.
no. It was a gravel
No,
circle.
tame out. You're thinking gravel circle. Oh my god, you have all the space to go forward. No, they made sure that there were 3 RVs right in the middle of the goddamn circle.
Oh yeah.
Right in the middle of the
Yeah.
circle.
They did, it wasn't like a circle with like a dead zone in the middle. No, there were spots there. They were literally maximizing every fucking square inch
Oh
of
my
property.
god.
But
So
then whenever
not
you
yeah.
go to back in, you're like, okay, this is fine. And so she hops out because there's campers on either
And
side, and I
I
have to
said,
make this
"Oh
stupid
fuck."
turn.
I
And
remember
so she's
saying
on the
this on the
walkie-talkie and she
and
said,
I
"Oh
said, "Oh
fuck."
fuck." And you were like, "What?" And I said, "Just stop the car, stop the truck real quick, get out and come look at this." Not only were we had to make the little circle gravel road on a hill, our spot, the back end of our spot, a
8-foot
complete
drop off.
drop off.
Yep,
And
8-foot drop off to a fucking old ass access road.
so you still had to manage to get in your spot. And I think we had maybe 3 feet after we parked it,
Yeah, between us and the
the
actual
drop
drop
off.
off, because like we let the back hang off a little bit because that's just how campers are, and the stabilizers are kind of up by the axles.
And boy, it was level on top, thank God.
Yeah,
But
but it
that
was
was
it was sketchy.
so
Like you could feel the whole
scary.
thing rocking anytime you'd
Every
walk,
time you
which
got
was
in, you lay
bad.
in bed, I was like, "Well, we'll just fall backwards down
Yep,
this fucking hill and then into the hill, into the pond."
yep.
Like, it was fucking crazy. So we finally get there and we notice pretty much everyone around us is some sort of blue collar worker. Like they're just there for like a night or two. Like we were only there for like 3 days. It wasn't anything crazy. But you could tell the people around us were either there for a job or overnight. Like it wasn't there
Yeah,
was some
most of the
most of the
people
permanent
there,
ones
that was
were
their
at a
home
different
base.
area. Yeah. Yeah. So we get there, we deal with the chaos of parking that and just being like, holy shit, that was fucking scary. Um, and we're like, okay, like we can walk the dogs. There's not really that many dogs around. That was kind of nice. There was a whole wooded area on the access road. So Stoney and I just walked our dogs on the access road, and then it had this like nice kind of land spot. And we just played with them up there. It wasn't too bad. That wasn't too bad of a little place. The parking situation, getting in and out, that was absolutely a nightmare. But once we were there, I was like, okay, this is pretty. There was a lake, just hanging out for a couple days until we're on our way to the beaches, pretty much, right?
Yep, that was the plan.
We went out we didn't do any of the historical things we wanted to do in Roanoke because we didn't have time. The time that we thought we had, we didn't have it. So we ended up going to like a little shopping mall area and we shopped this like local Western store, which was super cute and super awesome. Do you remember that place?
Yeah, yeah,
Remember going? Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
place was pretty nice. It was a
It
little
was
boot
super
store.
cute. It
It
was
wasn't necessarily like what we're used to when we're talking about like Western stores because, like, I mean, you
but
got to realize you're a bit
it was like
northern.
their version and the owners
Yeah.
were super sweet and super nice. And we were like, "So why'd you guys decide to open a store?" And he basically was like, "Well, you don't have a bunch of them over here, so why not?" It was the people were very sweet. It was very cool to see that in the area
I
because, like
liked
I
that
said,
until we went to that fucking McAllister's and they wouldn't give me my damn strawberry lemonade, even though
oh
I
my
paid
god, you're
for it.
so annoying.
I
Anyways,
was okay. Listen, if I
I don't
pay
even
for
remember that.
something, I do remember that because I
Oh my
remember dumb
god.
things like that. It
Okay.
was fine,
Well,
but they didn't give
anyways,
me my damn
we
drink.
didn't have time to do what we needed to do, which was fine. But it's like, okay, we stayed in this, little area. We're ready to get out of the get out and away from all of this meetings, this white people, white pride bullshit. In a sense, like we were definitely ready to leave. So I think that's where we're gonna stop before we get into kind of the real craziness
Where everything
of
really started going crazy.
where everything really started going wrong and sideways and upside down and right side up, like just the
Backways,
chaos
forwards,
of
and
it.
every ways around.
So yeah, this will definitely be a two-part episode. This is the first part of the camper story. We'll get into a lot of it next episode and in a lot more detail to where you're like, "Oh, okay. That makes sense. Holy fucking shit. I see now why you guys quit." Um but we hope that you enjoyed us kind of explaining everything. Like I said, we'll get more into it and it gets a little bit crazier than that. But when I tell you it was pretty fucked up and I think we're even leaving some shit out
Mhm.
of this area and the stuff that we did. Um but I think that's a good little place to pause and then we'll continue the rest next episode cuz whew, it's rough. Very rough.
Yeah, it was definitely something.
It's definitely something. But Stony, do you have this week's secret passcode for the listeners?
Yeah, since we talked a lot about being in the mountains and dealing with, mountainous things, I think we're gonna go ahead and just use the mountain emoji.
Perfect. So if you've made it this far into this episode, leave us a mountain emoji wherever you can or send it to us. It's really fun when you guys do. And that'll be the secret passcode for this week. But other than that, Stony, where can we find you?
You guys can find me everywhere at StonyRobbins_, and that's on, Instagram, Twitter, all those things.
The things.
All the socials.
The socials.
What about you?
Well, it's pretty easy. You guys can find me at, nice
ConwayTitty.com.
URL conwaytitty.com. That is conwaytitty.com.
TITTY, by the way.
Yep, you just type that in and it'll take you to all my socials. You can come hang out on the Twitch channel. We stream every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sundays. It's usually the streaming days that I have. We have a lot on the schedule, so be sure to come on and stop by. You can find the link there. You can find my
Make sure to
Instagram,
join
this
the Discord to
chat.
stay up to date with everything Twitch related. And also, we drop stuff about the podcast in there too.
Yeah, on Twitch or on Discord too. But other than that, we will leave you guys alone and let you ponder what's going to happen next. And we will see you on the next episode. So, yeah, this was episode 12. I think that was enough for you guys. And I'll let you guys, just sit there. Think about what's going to happen. Think about, I wonder if it could get any worse. It will.
Spoilers, it does.
It does. But we appreciate you guys listening. Yeah, that's all I want to say about that's all I gotta say about that.
Okay, we can end the episode. So I'm going to
Yeah,
go ahead and
yeah.
end the episode. Otherwise, Conway's just going to keep vamping to figure out a way to end the episode. So
But
goodbye, everybody. Bye.
no, that's not how we do it. I'm your host, Conway Titty.
And I'm your other host, Captain Dumbass.
All right, see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.